Hello, YouTube. It's your boy back here again for episode 3 of the Ethan Weisfeld Show. If you're not familiar with the Ethan Weisfeld Show, uh, we just talk about all things stocks, all things business, and operations. I do a deep dive into a company and I talk about something that's new in the news and why this is relevant towards its business, or I'll do a deep dive into the business, which I haven't done thus far really with detail. But I want to change that, and I decided to make a little presentation for you guys just to keep you guys more interactive. And I'm always trying to improve myself. So if you have any suggestions, leave a comment below. But let's talk about what Loblaws is. Loblaws is the biggest grocery store in Canada. They are all over the place. They're everywhere, all across Canada. Canada is the second biggest country in the world, so there is quite a demand for grocery stores. And groceries are essential to society. This essentially allows grocery stores to have unlimited pricing power. So we're going to talk about right now is Loblaws Anti-Competitive. Like I said before, it is one of the biggest grocery stores in Canada. It actually is the biggest grocery store. In first place, we have Loblaws, then we have Sobeys, and then we have Metro. And the other ones aren't that big. We have Costco there, but Costco kind of operates differently. They operate on very slim margins. They really get you in with their membership. Let me know if you want me to do a video on Costco. That would be really cool. But essentially, there are only a few big players in this space, and it makes the industry anti-competitive. Maybe not as anti-competitive as other industries like the telecommunications industry, but it has similar aspects for sure. Canadian grocery stores are actually capitalizing on anti-competitive measures. So we can take a look here and look at the revenue and market caps of each company. Right here we got Loblaws. This is their 2021 revenue, just to let you guys know. You got $53 billion in revenue and a market cap of $40 billion. You got Sobeys, which is owned by intermediary. So they own other brands as well. And their market cap's $9 billion. They're actually the smallest in terms of market capitalization. Just because they're the second biggest grocery store doesn't mean they're the second biggest business, if that makes sense. They could have the most locations, but their profit margins could be slacking, which is something that investors look at. And that's like one of the main factors that investors look at. So if they don't have good margins, they're not going to have that booming of stock, and that's represented here in their market capitalization. They have revenue of $28 billion. And then you got Metro, which is the third biggest, $18 billion market cap, and they just posted $18.3 billion in revenue. Greedflation's a new concept, and basically means that these grocery stores are taking advantage of inflation and they're using it to post higher profits to make their shareholders happy. And let's actually look at the facts of the situation. Taking a look at the left side of the screen, we can look at their Q1. On the left, we have their actual gross profit, and on the right, we have their best Q1 ever. Okay, towards excluding this date, excluding this Q1. So you can see there's a very big difference between the two. And then on the right, we can see the same thing, a similar trend. And if I wanted to expand on that, I'm sure it would show up in Q3 as well. But you could see their profit margins are expanding, and a lot of people think it's because of greed inflation. Go to the grocery store and you see rising costs, but also inflation's very high right now. So they're like, oh, our expenses are higher, so we can charge the customer more. I looked at their annual reports, I looked at their quarterly reports, and there's only so much you can actually determine from their financials. Yeah, you could see that their margins are expanding, but they don't really get into why they're expanding. And what they did say was very vague. So we'll get into that. So we can actually look at their outlook for 2022 just to see if this greedflation is actually playing out like consumers are saying. So you could see between Q1, Q2, and Q3, there's significant revenue growth. That isn't necessarily a characteristic of greedflation. It's mostly a margin thing, but that is significant growth. This is a grocery store we're talking about, guys. This isn't a rapid growing technology company like Apple or Microsoft or Amazon. This is a grocery store at the end of the day. And yeah, they have an online business, but how big can their online business be? I understand food's an essential part of society, but it's pretty crazy to see that type of growth from a company like a grocery store. And then if we go to their second line here, you can see their expenses. Their expenses have actually gotten cheaper. I would have to say this is really interesting to see, and it's something that I want to see as a shareholder. I want to see their margin expanding over time. And then you could see that their gross profit from Q1 to Q3 is up 203%. So is it justified that they are getting blamed for greenflation? I think it is. But like I said, we don't really know because we don't have a full outlook of the company. We can look at their financial statements, we can determine stuff like that. But if their profit's going up 200% in 3 quarters, that's 9 months. That's pretty crazy growth, guys.
And it's hard to believe that there isn't any margin expansion in their food business.
Let's actually talk about what's driving this profit growth. According to Loblaws, their food retail margins are flat. And then all this margin expansion is getting driven by drug retail. And I understand there's only going to be a compounding need for drugs in Canada. But to experience a 200% change in their gross profit is pretty crazy to me. And I don't think it's just, I honestly, and this is my opinion, I don't think it's been driven by drug retail as well. Is Loblaws taking advantage of its customers, especially its low income customers, right? Everybody at the end of the day has to go get groceries. And for someone that's in the lower class, it really takes a lot of money out of their discretionary income. They're spending money on rent. That's out of control. They're spending money on food. They have essentials like clothes, transportation, and now food's eating eating at their discretionary income. Let's talk about it. Is this ethical? It really depends on who you're talking to. Personally, in my opinion, I don't think this is ethical. They are having rapid expansion on grocery profits, and I think it really affects low class to middle class citizens the most because they have less discretionary income. They aren't particularly fortunate when it comes to income, and they're getting taken advantage of because food is something that's very essential. Whereas higher income individuals are able to spend as much discretionary income as possible. They don't have to, but they have the option to. I want to end the video with this note. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad investment. Ethics don't always play into investment theses. Actually, I would say that unethical companies are run very, very well. Look at for profit prisons, they are operating on insane margins. Look at cigarette companies. These are companies that are have one of the best financial they have one of the best financial statements in the world. They're very strong. They're world class companies, and I think they're here to stay.